Hello, my name is Leslie Berger, and I would like to welcome you to Renew, a show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. The College of Forest Resources promotes and enables the conservation, management, and wise use of our natural resources. The college has 3 departments, and on each episode of Renew, we try to feature one of those departments, and today we are looking at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture. Joining me today is Dr. Garrett Street, who's an associate professor in that unit. Thanks for coming, Garrett.
Thank you very much for having me, Leslie.
Excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here.
Good, good. We never have a chance to visit like this, but as colleagues together in the Department of Wildlife, we know each other. But I actually don't know fully all the things that you are engaged in. And you've got a lot of different research projects that you've got going on. So just give me just a big overview of the kinds of things that you find interesting that you're trying to investigate in these research projects.
Sure. So if I had to call myself anything, I'd probably call myself a movement ecologist or a quantitative ecologist, which is really just a fancy way of saying I like using math and statistics and complex methods and difficult methods to try to understand very difficult problems in how do animals move, where do they distribute themselves, where do we find them in space and time, and why? What are the habitat and landscape factors that promote some of those things? How does that translate to changes in behavior over time and population dynamics and growth of the individuals in the population as a whole? Lots of very sort of whole system kinds of problems that I deal with and my students and members of my lab deal with a lot of math and stats.
Right. So how does the math and stats then tie into what perhaps the boots on the ground people are doing to try to conserve bobwhite or white-tailed deer or anything?
So I think the best answer I can give for that is to point out that the foundation of all science is math and statistics. It doesn't really matter what you do, whether you are a boots-on-the-ground ecologist, a theoretical ecologist like me, a forester. We're all relying on the same statistical and mathematical tools. And if we don't apply those properly, we get bad answers. So if you're trying to decide, I have however many acres of forest and I need to decide which part of it is going to be coming down and in what schedule, and I am basing that on statistics that have been misapplied, I may make the wrong choice, and that can have devastating consequences for long-term conservation and management of the landscape of individual species, you name it.
So we all need to have an appreciation for these things. Not everybody needs to be a quantitative ecologist. And so talk to me about the value of teams. You're part of a team in the Quest Lab. Quest stands for?
The Quantitative Ecology and Spatial Technologies Laboratory.
Okay, Quantitative Ecology and Spatial Technologies. So, but there's not just you and your students. There's other people that are part of this team that are working on some more complex questions. So how does that work?
Right. So the Quest Lab is led by myself, Dr. Christine Evans, who is, and I believe, an associate professor in the department, and Dr. Guilin Wong, who is a full professor in the department. So the Quest Lab is a research consortium of people who all have sort of a common interest, but varied goals. We're all very, very interested in the proper application of math and stats for applied, meaningful conservation and policy making. But someone like me, for example, knows nothing about policy. So you don't want me making decisions at the state or federal level. You want someone like Dr. Evans for that. But where you want me is to be in the background doing the data analysis and the math and bringing those technical skills that Christine doesn't have. We're complementing one another, just as our students are also filling in some of those same roles.
Right. Okay. So that is a really nice thing about a team. Not everybody has to have that expertise.
Exactly.
You should complement one another. Somebody else's weaknesses should be someone else's strength to be able to solve these problems. So yes, and I see you're even wearing your Quest shirt today.
I thought I would advertise a little bit. Yeah.
We don't have just a whole lot of time, but I want you to tell me what is one of your favorite pieces of technology that you use in your work and why?
Probably my favorite things that I'm working with is a two-piece combination of GPS collars and accelerometers. So these GPS collars are literally like belt material that we, at least in the case of land animals, We strap them around the animal's neck, and they're wearing a GPS unit that tells us where they are. Pair that with an accelerometer, which is the same technology that you have in your smartwatch or your phone that counts your steps, except we're putting it on the animals, and we're counting their steps and measuring their behaviors to try to figure out, if they're eating, they're doing something like this.
Right.
We can see that on these devices. We know where they're doing.
So it's like you're following them in real time when you really aren't. You're using these technologies in combination as a team to be able to answer those questions.
Exactly.
So thank you for coming by. We're going to visit with one of your team members in just a moment, but I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your experiences in the Quest Lab at Mississippi State.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This was fun.
Good. We'll be back in just a moment.
Want a career as big as the outdoors? Want to have an impact on the environment? The College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University delivers hands-on training, ensuring clean air and water, wildlife habitats, and a sustainable environment. Creating new wood products and retooling old ones for today and tomorrow. Find a career in whatever path you choose. Majors in forestry, natural resource and environmental conservation, sustainable bioproducts, wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture. Want a career as big as the outdoors? Choose the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University.
Welcome back to Renew, where we've been learning more about the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture at Mississippi State's College of Forest Resources. Joining me now is graduate student Jane Gentinger, who is working in the Quest Lab that we heard about in the earlier section. Thank you for coming, Jane.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you have been working for Dr. Street. Actually, now you're on your second tour, right?
Yes,
You did a master's degree, which is training beyond a bachelor's degree, and now you're working on a PhD.
Yes, I liked it so much I stayed.
Well, that's very good. It's
Yes.
better than running off screaming into the night.
Yeah.
So what is your project about? What are you working on?
So he talked a little bit about accelerometers. I use these devices, accelerometers, to measure behavior of animals remotely. So I have two main projects that I'm working on. One is on zoo bears. So we're looking at monitoring the behavior of bears specifically for animal welfare purposes. And then we're also looking at moose in Alaska, and we're specifically interested in how they may shift what behaviors they're engaging in with temperature.
So you didn't study moose in Alaska, but have you been there following these animals around?
I did. Last summer I got a chance to go. We were actually scheduled for March 2020, which it got delayed a little bit, but I finally got up there and was able to go, and it's gorgeous. The facility they have up there is amazing.
Right.
I was really lucky to be able to go up there.
Yes, but your whole work is on animals that don't even live here in Mississippi because you're able to leverage this technology.
So for my master's, I actually, I was studying wild pigs here in Mississippi. But yes, for my PhD, the two different species that we're looking at are not particularly in the state, but these technologies can be applied to any species and of interest.
Yes, well, that is what's so amazing about the doors that they've opened, the kind of questions that we can ask, the kind of answers we can get, whether we have to be present or not. And that's huge for so many different reasons. You have been involved while you're here in teaching and mentoring other students.
Yes.
Which is sort of above and beyond the call. So why do you do that? Why do you think that's important?
It's incredibly rewarding. So I personally really enjoy it. I have been teaching, TAing for biometrics, and there's something particularly special about helping a student that may not feel confident with statistics or math and showing them that you can do this. Maybe you just need it explained in a different way. Maybe you need to see it visually. A lot of times people are kind of like, they get a little scared when they see math and statistics, but I really love seeing that click when people see it and they get it, and having that extra time to be able to sit down with the student and be like, okay, let's walk through all the steps and make sure, everyone has what they need. So it's just really rewarding. Yeah.
So do you plan on leveraging these experiences into your next thing, or do you find yourself going strict on the research, or where do you see yourself going next?
That is an excellent question, and I get that a lot. I'm not sure. I'm quite open to what the next steps might be. On one hand, I really enjoy teaching, so I feel like I would miss that if I didn't at least stick in academia and try that. But I'm also open to maybe trying to work for an agency for a couple of years, and maybe not necessarily knowing exactly what I want to do right after, but
Sure.
maybe trying a couple different things and seeing how things go. But I do really love teaching. I love research too. So academia is a pretty good, it fits both of those things
Sure,
pretty
it
well.
does. It allows you to keep a foot in
Yes.
both worlds, where if you went one way or the other, you'd have to give it up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and it flows very naturally, I think, from what you were saying about really liking to work with those students, is one of the things that you hear in the literature and see in the field is that there are not as many women in these STEM fields, science, technology,
Yeah.
engineering, mathematics, as there are men in this field. So you're a woman that's in one of those fields, and you actually are drifting even further into where there's fewer representation because you're on that technology, mathematics, statistics side of things.
Yes.
So what do you say to, what would you say to like a junior high girl or a senior high girl that was like, I think I want to do this, but what would you say to her?
Well, I would say one thing that I know I fell into the trap of early on was that I kept thinking several steps ahead. Just think about each of the next little steps you can take, achievable goals that you can do, and you'll find that you've come a long way. So before I did my master's, I thought there was no way I could do it, but you do each little step at a time, and you build so that each new step you grow and you're able to do a little bit more than maybe you thought you could. So I would say try it, and don't expect yourself to know everything all the time. Like, you are learning, it's gonna take time. So yeah, just keep trying to like knock a little bit off at a time.
Right. That's
Yeah.
excellent advice. And then periodically you have to turn around and look and say, my goodness, look how
Yeah,
far I've
I know,
come.
I still do that and be like, oh my gosh.
I
you
do
know?
too.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
So that's excellent advice. And I actually overheard you talk about that one time to a student. So,
Yeah.
and I know that's what you've been doing. So
Yeah.
you're following what you say. And so that's really important. Well, I enjoyed getting to visit with you
Yeah.
on the show. And I wish you the best as you wrap up here with Dr. Street
Thank
and
you.
the Quest Lab. I hope the rest of you that joined us today have learned a little bit more about the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture, how we can use these quantitative sciences to inform the conservation that we do for all of our natural resources, whether it's bears in zoos, or moose in Alaska, or wild pigs on the horizons. So I hope that you have appreciated this understanding of what we do in the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture at Mississippi State. I wish you the best, and I hope you join us again for Renew. I've been your host, Leslie Berger.